Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
Azbell say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
Good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone, and welcome to your #1 source for Native American television news, Native News Today. I'm your host, Jason Salzman, as I do every Saturday, welcoming you into the Muskogee Media Studios here as we get ready for another episode. This week's episode, we've got a little bit of everything, and as we told you back a few months ago, you know, we weren't going to change everything with our change in status. We were going to keep some of our human interest stories, some of our, feel-good things that our people are doing out there, and also delivering some hard news. So we will be doing that this week. Not only will we have a continuation of our series on our executive officers with the Secretary of Interior Affairs, Mr. Azbell, will be joining us this week for a sit-down interview. We also have a look at a citizen that's doing things in the world of mixed martial arts combat. Not only that, but a female. So really a neat little story there. And also we'll be taking a look at a new study that they're doing at the University of Tulsa. Really piqued our interest on this. One of our very own reporters, Darren DeLon, went up taking part in a pain risk assessment. They've done these before on different races. Never before has a pain risk assessment study been done on Native Americans. So this is the first time ever. So we thought we needed to have that on the show. So we'll have all of that this week. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back and get things started right after this.
Looking for your next 18-hole adventure? Then take a look at Fountainhead Creek Golf Club. Nestled in the beautiful confines of Lake Eufaula State Park, large sloping greens and well-placed bunkers characterize the Muskogee Creek Nation's Floyd Farley designed course and offers a fine test of skill for any golfer. Stay up on all the latest gear and equipment with a visit to our pro shop. Have lunch at the Turn at the Clubhouse Grill. We're waiting to accommodate you at Fountainhead Creek. Give us a call at 918-689-3209 or visit fountainheadgolf.com to book your next round. Fountainhead Creek Golf Club, close to home, far from ordinary.
It's more than just an associate degree. It's a life-changing experience.
You'll see a lot of cultural features here on the campus. You'll see a symbol of the mound, which goes back to the history of Muskogee people as being in that Mississippian time period, that mound building society. That really welcomes our students whenever they first get here.
The college in itself is beyond the building, is the people.
They're passionate, very passionate about what they teach, and it shows whenever they're teaching.
The instructors and the administration, they really believe in their students here.
After a couple classes, I began to notice that it kind of felt as if I were returning back to something that had been lost for like a long time. As I learned more about the history of my people, to discover that there were very many great people that did a lot of good things for their people, for their nations, and that those people were American Indian and Native American, it kind of brings out a sense of pride that was not really there before.
There is a future for our people.
And welcome back to the studio. Jason Salzman here as we get started with the first story up in this week's episode of Native News Today. And as I said earlier, we continue our series highlighting and profiling the members of Principal Chief James Floyd's cabinet, his executive officers, as they are confirmed. They're coming on with us, sitting down, answering our questions. And this week we have the Secretary of the Interior, Mr. Azbell, new to this position, but definitely not new to the Muskogee Creek Nation as a citizen, has worked in, wore several hats here at the Nation, not only starting off at the district court, the special projects coordinator there, working in our cultural center and archives department, as well as also being the vice mayor of the city of Altmalgi, doing a lot of things in the community too. So Chris has done a lot of things out there, and I just wanted to sit with him and talk about some of the inherent challenges of taking over this new position, also his excitement, his experience, and what him being in this position means for the Muskogee Creek Nation. Meeting now with Mr. Chris Azbell, the Secretary of the Interior here at the Muskogee Creek Nation. Chris, I want to thank you for giving us a little bit of time here today on the program.
Sure, glad to be here.
Well, Chris, what we basically have done with our profile of our executive officers, you have been confirmed by the National Council. So talk a little bit about your background, what basically brings you to this point here at Muskogee Creek Nation.
Sure. I have an undergraduate degree in environmental science, a master's in public administration, public policy. And actually, when I was in graduate school, I decided to do an internship and they put me with Pat Moore over at the district court, worked there for about 10 years. Got on the city council, so been involved with government my entire life. Worked for the cultural center for about two and a half years, and then talked to Chief Floyd, and he said he really liked to have some candidates for some different positions, so I put my resume in. And
I think that you look at it's a well-rounded experience, just from tribal court and also then to cultural center. So you're dealing with a lot of the safekeeping of artifacts, things like that with Culture Center, but also the tribal court. You know a lot about the tribal law and some of the policies that come through and all the work there. Do you think that's gotten you ready for what you have to do now?
It has, because the Secretary of Interior Affairs is over a menagerie of different departments. It's you got to be a real generalist, and you got to know a little bit about a lot of things, and from the Realty Department to Tribal Transportation to the Environmental Department. So my education background and my experience over the last 13 years of working at Creek Nation has really, I think, set me up to do well in this position. And I think you got to have a passion to work in government. You got to have a passion to just want to improve on things. Right. And some of the things that they had done in the previous administration, we kind of switched gears on. But there's a lot of things they did really well, and so we'll just build on that. Right. And that's kind of where we are today. Keeping
with that, you come in and you do have to take a look at everything whenever you're a new person in a new position and you take over and the administration's changed. What were some of the things that you found a little bit that needed the most attention when you came in? I think,
our relationship with the Bureau was probably the #1 thing, and with the Realty Department.
Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Sure. And at the agency level, they had made the policy decision to remove them at the agency level. When we came in, met with Chief Floyd, we kind of reversed that out. There was a real contentious relationship with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and we've actually kind of turned that around. And here's the thing, we want to exert our sovereignty when we can, but we also have to be realistic that the Bureau makes decisions on our trust applications. They also make decisions on probates and all these different things that affect people's lives. In the Creek Nation, a lot of people, their lives were being affected, and that's probably the first thing. Because we have a bunch of good employees under my realm, but there's a few bad apples that we had to cull out, and I think things are moving forward.
You take a look at some of the things you're over, and you mentioned a few of them also. But you look at Cultural Center and Archives Department. You actually worked there now. It's one of the departments you're in charge of overseeing. One of the big things for citizens and for everybody here at Creek Nation, of course, is our council house. Downtown Altmalgi, it's a staple. It's a wonderful place. It's a part of living history. You look in, you can walk through the same halls. You can go through the same rooms as some of our great elders, some of our great descendants, people that conducted tribal business there and made Altmalgi the creek capital that it is. Right. It does have problems. It has encountered it needs a facelift, basically. It needs help. And that's been something that we haven't had a chance to do because we have other issues that have come up, of course. How frustrating and just for you has that been, the fact that we've had to sort of put the council house on hold for other things? It's
been really frustrating, to tell you the truth. And, we didn't do a very good job of planning over the last 2 or 3 years in terms of our priorities, our budgetary priorities at Creek Nation. Primarily, we funded the architects, $175,000 or whatever it was. So, I mean, obviously, when you fund the architects, you know that in a pretty short period of time, there's going to be some requests for funding for the construction. And so at that time, they should have encumbered some funds on either on the economic development, because I think it's an economic development opportunity as well, but or in the capital improvement fund. They didn't do that. And obviously, it's well known that we have some issues with our health administration and the funding associated with that. There was a $65 million bailout. I think we have taken over a nonprofit to start our own capital campaign. I think the nation is ready to pony up at least $1.5 million. It's a $3.5 million project just for the restoration. The inside is going to be about $300,000 or $400,000, I think, maybe in that realm for programmatic. So it's really frustrating, because especially when you see what's going on in Okmulgee. You see Okmulgee rising. This is the capital of the Muskogee Creek Nation. You look at the capitals for some of the other tribes, Tahlequah or was it Durant. You see what the tribal influence and the impact they've had on their towns. We can have the same impact here, and it's just going to take time. We need to make sure we have an investment here in Okmulgee, and it'll spread out to other areas.
You know, that's a great point that you bring up, and I want to talk about the fact that you are the vice mayor here of the city of Okmulgee, as well as a Creek citizen working in an executive office under the administration of the principal chief of the Muskogee Creek Nation. So you really are walking in two worlds at the same time there. So what's the sentiment been like for Okmulgee as they've seen us sort of have some problems with the Okmulgee Medical Center, which is a huge part of Okmulgee? The council house, you know, it affects not only us, but them as well. What has it been like with the Creek Nation and the city of Okmulgee right now as we, you know, sort of navigate these waters?
Yeah, I think it's frustrating to see it for some of the local folks that know how much money that the tribe makes off gaming, obviously, and maybe we haven't put our money in the invested in the right areas. We know that there's an opportunity cost from cultural tourism and other things associated with the council house being closed. So we're foregoing potential economic activity in downtown Okmulgee because the building is closed. The hospital's been an albatross around a lot of people's necks, including Creek Nation, but also in the local community. I think they were $3.2 to $5 million in debt. We took it over. We tried to make a run, go for it, but I think they're more understanding about the hospital, more frustrated about the lack of access to health care for some of the citizens of Okmulgee, but they're more understanding about that. They really want to see the council house open. I think that's really the gist of it. It's the heartbeat of Okmulgee. It's on everything that we put out from a marketing standpoint. It's the council house. We're actually going to be potentially renaming the downtown square, the council house square or council square. Okay. That's one of the ideas that's coming. So, they want to embrace Creek Nation, but we need to kind of step up and invest.
Well, I think that that's a lot of great things there, especially things in the future to look for. It looks like things are being addressed for the council house, and also with yourself coming in, looking at the departments that you're working with. Right. We're still recycling, doing a great job at the recycling center. I know you're proud of that. Transit program, things working great there. We're getting our citizens from place to place. It's a nice program. So you have a lot of things that you're looking over and addressing. Chris, is there anything we should look for from some of those things that you'd like to highlight and have us keep on our radar as citizens?
Yes, the news headlines sometimes. I think last week, talked about the health and some of the things that are not going quite right with Creek Nation, but the reality of it is we have a ton of things that are going right. We have a great recycle facility. Citizens, not only Creek citizens, but anybody can take recycled stuff over there. We have a roads program that's building roads all over this county, all over the original territorial boundaries of Creek Nation. We have 10.5 counties, I think. There's just so many good things that are not being told that we're trying to focus on that. A cultural center, they're bringing the movie Miko is going to be coming to the Orpheum. And it's just that, forging those relationships with the people in town. And they've learned more about Creek culture over the last 4 or 5 years than they have probably throughout their lives. And that's sad because Creek Nation's always been right here. And I think there's a lot of good things going on at Creek Nation, and in the light of the policy of Chief Floyd, I will say that our number one goal is to maintain 100% transparency. There's nothing that we're going to hide. There's nothing that we're going to, not show our hand on, unless it's going to negatively affect our ability to negotiate or something like that. There's certain times where we need to kind of keep it close to the vest. But his MO is to be transparent, and that's my role too. And I'll have an open door. I'd like to encourage any citizen out there to come in and see me if you have any issues, any concerns. We may not agree on every single decision, but I'll listen to your side. You can listen to mine, and I don't hold grudges or anything like that. And I just want to move forward and focus on what we can do to benefit the citizens.
Well, thank you so much for the time today, Chris. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And thanks again to Chris Azbell there for sitting with us here for a profile of him as he takes on the new position of Secretary of the Interior. It's great to have him be so candid in the conversation, as well as all the executive officers. So we'll continue with that series as they are confirmed from the National Council. Earlier, as I talked in the opener, I spoke of the study being done right now at the University of Tulsa in their psychology department. Really, it's a pain risk assessment. And what's so unique about this? Two things. One, they've done pain risk assessments before over several different races. They've never done one over Native Americans, how they feel pain, how they react, things like that. And two, what makes this so special for us is that not only is the subject a Muskogee Creek citizen, he is an employee here of Muskogee Media. Darren DeLon actually linked up with them for this study. We were able to tag along. So grateful for the University of Tulsa as they conduct this pain risk assessment study on Native Americans.
I'm Jamie Rudy. I'm a professor of clinical psychology here at the University of Tulsa. Yeah, a few years back, it came to our attention that Native Americans have some of the highest rates of chronic pain than any other racial or ethnic minority group. And so we decided to do a very small study to explore some of the potential mechanisms of why that might be. Why would a certain group have such a higher risk of chronic pain than others? That original study led us to some interesting hypotheses that Native Americans actually might have a very specific risk factor that was unique to them, that was different from other racial and ethnic minority groups, which looked to be like they had dampened pain processing. So they were actually experiencing less pain than the average person, which could put them at risk because pain itself is actually adaptive to experience. It's good to know when your body is damaged. And so if you're not able to detect when damage is happening, that damage might become prolonged and therefore eventually lead to something that's more chronic and prolonged. So we developed a study from those original data to do a much bigger study, to study about 240 individuals to try to understand whether that mechanism was true, if we studied in a larger group, and also if it is true, whether there were some other risk factors that might help contribute to chronic pain risk so that we could target and intervene and maybe prevent the progression to chronic pain, or help us treat those who go on to develop chronic pain. So there's 3 broad categories of pain testing that we do. So we actually do deliver pain stimuli in the laboratory because we want to be able to understand how the body responds to painful stimuli in a controlled environment. And so it's very hard for us to understand pain, real clinical pain, because it's so different from person to person. But if we actually apply a painful stimulus, then we can do it in a very controlled way, try to understand how the body reacts. So we do 3 basic categories of tests. One is we apply stimuli to some part of the skin, such as cold, heat, pressure, ischemic, and then we ask the person to report on how painful it is, and then we measure things like pain threshold, which is how much of the stimulus it takes before the person experiences pain, and their pain tolerance, how much of the stimulus can they take before they say that's the most they can handle. So that's one category. Another category of tasks involve measures of what we call central sensitization. So it's the way in which our brain and our spinal cord to react to the painful stimuli. And so we want to know physiologically the way the brain and spinal cord reacts to these stimuli. And so we have some very specific tasks that allow us to measure that. The third category is pain regulation or pain modulation tasks. Our bodies have amazing abilities to regulate pain second to second, minute to minute, day to day. And there's tremendous individual differences. Some people can do it very well, and some people have a much harder time doing it. And we know that people with chronic pain tend to have a harder time doing that. So we have tasks that we can do in the laboratory that allow us to see how well a person is able to regulate pain in the short term. And so we're measuring this, all these three categories of tasks in individuals. These are all healthy individuals, by the way, healthy, pain-free individuals, so that we can understand if there are differences in the way pain processing, the body processes the pain signal that might then lead to chronic pain at a later date. We are still recruiting, and in fact, we expect to be conducting the study for another 2 more years. We're about halfway through recruitment. We're trying to target a total of 240 individuals, 120 Native Americans and 120 control groups, so that we can compare whether there's differences. And we have about 60 to 70 in each group right now, and so we're going to, over the next couple of years, trying to round out those figures to 120 per group. What we hope to do is for this to be the first of a series of studies that allow us to get a better handle on what puts individuals at risk for chronic pain, not just Native Americans, but maybe people in general, so that we can develop more appropriate and tailored intervention, so that if someone, say, has an accident, a car accident, and we know that they have a very specific risk factor that we can target early that helps keep them from transitioning to chronic pain, then we can do that. Or, in addition to those things, for those individuals who actually do develop chronic pain, if their risk factors are unique to them, we can target them and maybe reverse it so that the chronic pain is alleviated or at least lessened. So we're really hoping to identify what the unique mechanisms are for different people, because everybody's different, so that we can have a very tailored approach to the way that we treat and prevent these things from happening.
Our thanks once again to the University of Tulsa for having us up for that assessment study, and also thanks to Darren DeLon for being a champ there and taking part in the risk assessment. He said the electrodes were a little uncomfortable. He said some of it really did hurt. So it'd be interesting to see some of the studies, and we'll have him on after they conclude that assessment and have those studies quantified. So we'll have that for you. And also, the reason I like to bring up Darren too is here on the show we're going to start having more of our profiles of our people and things like that. When our reporters go out to cover things on the for the Muskogee Nation newspaper, we're also going to have them video profile some of these subjects that they're covering for features, bring it onto the show. And this is one of those such instances where 2 of our paper staff went out. Amanda Rutland actually does video for us from time to time. She went with Darren to profile one of our Muskogee Creek citizens that's an MMA fighter. She's also a female in a man's world, so this is a great story.
I'm Kayla Renee Thompson. I am 25. I'm Creek on my grandma's side. I've been wrestling since 2nd grade. I took state twice, once in middle school and once as a freshman. I trained at Mikey Burnett's gym in Tulsa, and then I came and moved to El Reno, and I met Dana, my sensei. He has a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu, and that's always good. And me and him are just a good team together, and we clicked really well right in the beginning, because we started off with judo tournaments. Judo is mainly throwing somebody off balance, takedowns. You can't grab the leg or anything. It's mainly stand up. One throw can win you the whole match. I've always been a conflict, one-on-one type of person, wrestling, and I wanted more than that grappling. I wanted to hit. So I started doing boxing. He made me do a Muay Thai fight. started to transition me into actually throwing judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, all that all into one. And I loved it, and I don't want to stop. My inspiration, probably be Dana, because he pushes me every day, never gives up on me. He gives me words of wisdom that I've never heard before, and it makes me just want to keep going. He's a really good sensei. I'm blessed to have him. There's one more person who does inspire me, my friend Cynthia. She is Oto, Missouri, full Oto, Missouri, and she helps me out with almost everything, like from shoes to gear to just help me out, and I really appreciate her and her family. Want to know amateur? I know it's not much yet, but I did get Fight of the Night, but I know soon I'll turn pro. I want to win this belt this Saturday, and it means a lot to me. Like, this is something I really want to do. You get the belt. Yeah, I don't have one of those yet, and that means a lot. Most of the people that I train with have belts, and it means a lot to them. And they get to hang their picture in the gym with their belt right there. And that's where I wanted to be for a long time. This fight, I feel really prepared, and I'm gonna bring home the win for sure. You know, bringing home a win for Creek people, it's, you know, you don't hear about it often, like you said, and I wanna make them proud. I want everybody to know that I am part of Creek Nation, and I'm going to make them proud. In 5 years, I hope to be in the UFC. I really hope so. As long as I keep winning, I'll be there.
And that'll wrap us up for another episode of Native News Today. I want to thank everybody for taking part in it this week, making the show what it was, and Chris Azbell for sitting down with us, Darren with his story, not only profiling the fighter, but also setting for the pain risk assessment. Great episode. I want to thank all them people for making it happen. I also want to remind everybody out there, we have launched our all-new MuskogeeMedia.com. Please visit our new interactive website. You can see our videos. You can see all of our print stories. You can contact us. Everything is right there. It's a very interactive site. We've had a lot of viewers. We've had a lot of people coming through these first weekends, so we're excited about that, but also some things on there right now that are very pertinent to the Muskogee Creek Nation, such as the recent call for a budget revision from the Principal Chief's office, basically saying that he needs all departments, Muskogee Creek Nation-wide, to look at their 2016 budget, hand in the 2017 budget by April 22nd with a 10% decrease from last year. So there's going to be departments having to make some tough decisions. That definitely includes us at Muskogee Media. Now, some departments have some 10% that they can work with. That's not true with us. We use every single cent of our budget. So when we look at a 10% decrease, the last thing we want to do is cut personnel. So we have to look at things to maybe make up that 10% without having to do that. That may include taking Native News Today off the television and taking Muskogee Radio off the radio waves. If you don't want to see Native News Today taken off CW19, call the Principal Chief's office, contact them, let them know as citizens that you want that to stay on TV. That's the only voice we have as citizens for our program to not get cut. So there's things that you can keep advised on there on MuskogeeMedia.com. Check us out on YouTube, all of our social media. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next Saturday.